Well, first Holmes was born, then he got fat, bald, and tired. Sup, Holmes?
Beware, your host, Jonathan Holmes.
Particularly sinister today, Sinistar. And I heard that intro. It's the first time. I never watched the show later due to self-consciousness. It's the first time I've heard that intro song in a little while. It's not that bad. I'm distanced enough from it now that I can say, yeah, it's all right.
You can appreciate it now?
I think so. Is that how it is with you and your games, Jools?
Definitely.
You must get so close to them that I imagine it would be hard for you to assess them from an outside perspective shortly after you've created them, and maybe forever. I don't know. How has that been for you?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, a lot of them, yeah, you get sick of it. You know, by the time you're done with it, you do not want to be playing it. You know, you're like, you know, every nook and cranny. You're like, ugh, no. But no, yes, and sometimes you come back and go, you know what, this wasn't bad, or yeah, this kind of was bad, or whatever. You know, you can see it from that perspective and kind of see what it really was like. But I must say, whenever I speak positively about Mutant Muds, I always think I sound like I'm just totally, you know, BSing because I want to sell units and make money, which is true as well, honestly. But Muds though is the exception for me. I've been playing that since we made it, and I still enjoy it, which is really odd and awesome and strange.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that, honestly, because I've bought Mutant Muds. Well, you've given it to me a couple of times, and I've bought it, I think, at least once.
I'm giving it back, so I have to keep on giving you back. Yeah.
Yeah, iOS, 3DS, and Wii U now.
Yeah.
And there's so much space in the game for you to choose how to go about particular decisions, and you the way something looks on face value. The game often looks easy. Like, I'm just looking at the screen, and I'm like, I can handle that, no problem. But then it's not, and that give and take, that surprise difficulty that kind of pops up. Sometimes mid-jump, you'll get that panic, like mid-float jump, like, I'm not going to do it, I'm not. Right. That doesn't get old. Playing the game 3 times now, playing a lot of the same levels over again, there's something kind of eternal to that. So
yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, and thank you. Yeah, no, it surprises me, honestly. And I think my approach to that game, which is quite tiring as a creative perspective, is literally every step you take. What happens now? Which, you know, is exhausting. When you've got 80 levels in there now, every step you've got to think, what do I do now? And the nice thing is, for me, I'll have a list of, you know, challenges that I can throw to the player, as simple as jump, or as complex as this specific enemy in this specific place for this reason. You know, so you have this list of things that I have, you know, on my computer kind of remind me. I can't keep it all in my brain. And I'll figure out, you know, based on what level you're at and where you've been and what the player's experienced up to that point, what can we throw at the player. Anyway, so my point is, yeah, just trying to entertain the player every step you take through that. I think, yeah, for me, when I play it, it kind of still kind of entertaining, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. That's very impressive. For people who don't know, you are Jools Watsham. You are Renegade Kid's main man. Though there is another man, at least one other man I know.
There is another man, Greg Hargrove. We're both co-founders of...
He's a very nice man, Greg.
He's a very nice man. I like him also. Yeah.
What does he do with Renegade Kid?
He's the art director. I'm just going to warn you, I think my doorbell's about to ring, and I'm going to ignore it. And then my dogs are going to bark. And then they might do it again in a few minutes, not realizing I'm not here. Just to let you know. The door didn't go, but I'm sure the doorbell's going to go in a minute. Like a secondary.
This makes me feel so much better about myself, because this always happens to me, too. I have a dog now, and it's constantly letting itself be known. So you founded Renegade Kid. You had worked in the past with Greg. Prior to that, you'd worked on 16-bit games. Did you go as far back as 8-bit, or did you get your start in the 16-bit era?
My first game was an NES game in 91, I think. I think it was 90. Can you hear me, or my dog's drowning me out? You good?
I can hear you and your dogs. I like them both.
So it's a chorus. Okay, good stuff. If I look at them, oh, it worked. All right, nice. They're like, shall I keep on barking? Please don't. Please don't. You start crying though. Good job. Nice one, Mary. Right. So 91. Yes, it was an NES game. and it was Rodland for the NES, which is not really known over here, but in the UK, it's a coin-op machine originally. I think the original company, Jellicoe, I think maybe, I'm not sure.
Really?
And it's pretty cool. It's kind of a weird twist on the gameplay of Bubble Bobble in a way, where it's a static screen, jump up on platforms. You have these cute little fairy girls, and you smack the enemies with wands, and you jump around and do stuff. Terrible.
What's it called again? Rugland?
Rodland.
Rodland.
Rods, and you're in a land.
Rodland. That is.
Yeah, it's actually really cute. But anyway, the NES version, I did some of the artwork for that. Then did some SNES stuff. And yeah, I was at Iguana for a bit. And then that was bought by Acclaim. And then that closed down, and then I joined King's Isle for a little bit. They made Wizard 101. If you ever heard of that.
Right.
It's MMO game.
Sure. Still going now.
Yeah, it's a great game. I left before it was finished, so I can't really take any credit for it, but I was there for a little bit. Great game. I mean, turned out really good. And so Greg and I started Renegade Kid in 2007. And we were working together at Acclaim for like 12 years before that.
Well.
Always talking
and just this year, about, stop me if I'm wrong on it, but at least in the past 12 to 24 months, there was Planet Crashers, ATV Wild Ride, 3DS, Mutant Muds, on 3 different consoles.
Right.
I feel like I'm missing something. Is it just? And you've announced Treasurenauts and Cult County and started work on it. Oh, and Bomb Monkey. Yeah, Bomb Monkey. That's the first time we met in real life, and we're suddenly mobbed or bombed by Jessica Negri. That was surprising.
Yes, it was surprising.
For a memorable first meeting. So that's 6 games in a very brief period of time, and it's you and Greg doing most of the heavy lifting on that?
Yeah, so Greg's the art director, so he primarily handles all the 3D art, so from our first game, Dementium, to Moon, ATV Wild Ride, Planet Crashers, I'm probably forgetting something, whatever, but he does a lot of awesome 3D art, and other stuff, but that's his forte, really making stuff look great in as fewer polys as possible. And has really good draftsmanship skills as well, and he's a musician. Actually, his band did the music for ATV Wild Ride, which is pretty cool. So some of his dulcet tones are in there, which is pretty cool.
Oh, awesome.
I do the design of all the games. I kind of deal with the scheduling, production stuff, any business hoo-ha that we have to deal with. And then we have Bob Ives, who's our awesome, huge-brained programmer who did Dementium single-handedly. Wow. And then Moon. We hired an extra person to help out there, but still. And then we have Matthew Gambrell, who's also a huge-brained programmer who did all of our 2D stuff, so Mutant Muds, Bomb Monkey, etc.
In terms of the pixel art or the design or the programming?
Yeah.
But you did the pixel art on Muds and Bomb Monkey, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
I do the pixel stuff, yeah.
So it's a pretty lean and mean team, and very impressive that you...
Very mean.
Do you find that one of the times you wish you had more people, and one of the times that you're grateful that you don't have to manage more than a few guys?
Exactly. It's a little bit of both, because at Acclaim we had people, teams of, gosh, I'm not sure how big we got, but 20 to 40 people on one team in some situations, which is an absolute nightmare, honestly. I mean, you can feel the stress coming to me now just thinking about it. It's horrible. So, but no, it's wonderful being lean and mean, because it's just less to worry about. As soon as you add another person to the mix, it could be great, it could be awful. I think either can happen. So yeah, there were definitely times I wish I had someone to bounce ideas off at least. Because I base my experience working with stuff is it's always way better when you work with someone. When you kind of come up with an idea and you bounce ideas back and forth and if you're compatible, it can go places where neither of you individually would have ever gone, which is awesome. But I kind of design a lot in a vacuum, Mutant Muds and Bomb Monkey at least anyway. Fortunately, the rest of the team are really good gamers, so they have great ideas, and they're not shy to tell me my ideas suck or whatever. So that's great, you know. So that works. So we kind of have a partial designer in all of them, really, where their full-time, you know, job is something else. So it works out well. But actually, you know, I was thinking about this the other day. Having small teams is awesome. We wouldn't have got Muds done if we were trying to be a bigger team. It would have probably just been, the game could have got compromised, or the game maybe never got done, or, you know, who knows. So it's good for me to be like, great, we're going to make this game, and you know, if I want to change anything or everything, I don't have to worry about, you know, someone getting upset because that 2 weeks of work you just did, now it has to go. But if it's my work, I don't care. I'll just delete it and move on, do something new, you know. So that's good. It's very you know, liberating in that way, where we could just just go forward. And we did change a lot as we went, but then we settled and then kept on going. So
right, sounds like the
other
difference between riding a motorcycle and driving like an 18-wheeler. If you need to make a quick turn, you can just quickly move in what direction you have to, as opposed to a big team. So where do you see Renegade Kid? Where do you guys think you stand at this point in the industry? Do you see yourself as like, we made it, guys, we did it, success, we just need to maintain this? Or do we think we've got to grow in order to get where we want to be because there's so much we want to do that we're not capable of doing right now? Or are you even thinking like, we've done enough, we're going to slow down for a while, maybe just one game a year?
Oh yeah, we've totally achieved, we've peaked, we've totally achieved everything. No, we definitely want to grow, but very slowly and very carefully, and not for the sake of it. You know, we're not like, we've got 80 people because we're huge and massive and awesome. You know, it's not for that reason. It's so we can do more games. You know, so we can do more. You know, we're spread pretty thin, but not to the point where, hopefully, the games suffer. You know, just enough at that breaking point. But it would be nice to have a few extra people, definitely, to help. And that's why now we are changing how we function as a company, as far as our, you know, direction as far as game creation. I mean, the first 5 or 6 years, you know, we were working with publishers. So we'd go to a publisher, say, hey, can you give us some money to make this game? Great, thanks. They did that. The game would get done. We get paid to make the game, but once the game's done, we don't get any more money. So it's great, but you're just treading water financially the whole time because you're not getting profits, really. You have to sell like loads of copies of anything to get any kind of profit because the publisher has to get their money back first, which is difficult. So we did that for about 5 odd years. I'm like, well, that's great. I appreciate that. That everyone, you know, people trusted that we could make games for them, which is awesome. Or make our games actually, and they just published them. But yeah, financially, it wasn't really working out. So Muds was the beginning, the catalyst of, wow, we could actually make something and make money. I mean, there hasn't been a day gone by that Muds hasn't sold some copies since it's been released, which is amazing. I mean, in retail, you couldn't do that. You couldn't, you know, you may do like a run of 8 or 15 or whatever thousand copies, you know, and spread it all out across the US to GameStop, Best Buy, etc. Boom. If it does well, you may get another reorder of the same amount, or if it doesn't, you just won't. And there you go, done. So you got your 20,000 out there. Good luck in finding it. We'll move on to the next game and chapter closed. You know, and that's the way it was, which kind of sucks. But now, with digital distribution, it's up there. Everyone can buy it every day, whenever they want, and it's like, wow, it's incredible. So
awesome.
I like to visualize like that as actual people lining up outside our door each day, saying, "Hey, can I have a copy of your game?" And it's like, wow, 20 people every day at least, or whatever, outside our house, like saying, "Hey, can I have your game?" That's amazing, you know. So that's how I try to put it in perspective. So it's not just numbers, but yeah, it's pretty amazing.
That's humbling and touching. I have this show, Teenage Pokemon, now, and the views have been different. I like it. That's really nice of you to say. I have very mixed feelings about it, but the animation's great anyway. I tried. I don't know. It turned out the way it turned out. But, you know, a lot of Pokemon fan cartoons have like 10 million views, and mine doesn't yet. And I'll be like, only 500,000 views. Nobody likes my show. But if I picture 500,000 people lining up outside my house and being like, do those dumb Pokemon voices.
That would be there'd be police out there trying to like corral them and stuff, you know? It would be like
that would be pretty amazing. Yeah. So your perspective is.
Wow.
Some of them have over 1 million. It's really spread. It's I found, sadly, the old internet rumor to be true. If you put boobs in your thumbnail, even if it is a turtle's boobs, you will get much more views.
It's a fact. It's just a
Turtle
fact.
boob. Yeah. You haven't had any turtle boobs in your games yet.
We haven't yet. How did that slip by? That's so weird. So weird.
But you are working on 2 games that I know of anyway, as of right now, Treasurenauts and Cult County. I got to see a little bit of Cult County at PAX East.
That's right.
I was very impressed with what you're managing to do with such a small team. It looks, in terms of fidelity, graphic fidelity, and polish, like something I'd see from a AAA 3DS developer. Treasurenauts, I've only seen screenshots as of yet, but it looks like you're capitalizing on the feel of Muds and really expanding the sense that you're in a larger world with a larger breadth of experience there. So that's how it's looking to me so far. But please tell us, how is development going on those games?
Yeah, I mean, Greg handled all of the artwork for Cult County and did a really great job. You know, we wanted to do a simple kind of atmospheric demo for PAX, you know, where we got to play that. And yes, we spent a lot of time kind of figuring out what that would be, you know, because we have a lot of the game kind of planned out as far as story and where you start and where you go next and the characters you meet and all that kind of stuff. But obviously we hadn't built any of that. You know, we focused on the story and stuff first. So then we're like, well, when it came time to be like, well, it's like a demo, or sorry, an atmospheric location, what could it be? What would embody the attitude of the game? And it took a while to figure that out, actually. But then, because obviously it's called Cult County, and that obviously suggests there's some religious connotation going on, like, well, putting it in the grounds of a church is probably a good idea to really cement the fact that that's going on, you know, and at least suggest that there's some at least religious undertones or overtones going on there. So yeah, Greg did a great job. It looks really good. I love the sky kind of moves and it's great dust cloud coming through, and it's hard to appreciate in 2D, in flat. You know, when you get 2D screenshots, honestly, the game looks really dirty and gritty and muddy. It's really hard to read. But as soon as that's all displaced in 3D, you're like, oh yeah, cool, and you can really see it. It's really, really cool. It was kind of a bummer that the 2D shots, did not capture that at all.
Well, yeah, it's kind of the curse of the 3DS in general. And when did you start working on the game? How long has it been in production so far?
That's a good question. Gosh, we've been kicking that around for a while. Where are we? So that was this March, right? That we started.
That's right.
Yeah. So we probably started at the end of last year, kind of getting some ideas together, but only this year we actually started putting that playable together. So that was only like a month or so's worth of work, maybe even less, but maybe a month's work to get that demo kind of together with the audio and the gameplay and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, just a little while. We're kind of taking our time, not only because we want to get the story figured out, because we're trying to do episodic, where there'll be a bunch of episodes, and then each one is a self-contained, story. So it has a beginning, and then obviously has like a little cliffhanger in the end, and then you get to the next episode that's kind of cleared up, and move on to another cliffhanger. And in theory, we'll continue that to like shows like Lost and stuff like that. I think did a really good job of that, where it's very, very teasery, very frustrating for the user, for the viewer, but it works. It's exciting. If you care about what you're involved in, and there's a little kind of cliffhanger on the end, you really want to kind of check out the next episode. So that's what we're trying to go for. So yeah, we're just spending a lot of time getting that figured out, the characters. Something we wanted to do really since Dementium 2 was really try and focus more on story, So that's a big part of it. Try and focus on that. And it's just a ridiculous amount of artwork that's needed, so it's kind of slowly moving, but it's going nicely.
Yeah. I was going to say, it sounds like the logical next step to Dementium, which you do not own the rights to, is my understanding. Is that right?
It's kind of complicated, but we own the IP, but I've discovered that doesn't mean much. Because the publisher has the right to port the game, and they have the right to do sequels. Now, if we want to go to another publisher and say, hey, we want to do a sequel, they can give us a proposal, say, hey, here's lots of money to make an awesome game. But then we have to take that to the original publisher and say, hey, we've got this. Do you want to match this?
Oh boy.
Because that exists, no publisher is going to give us the proposal in the first place for the risk of losing it. So it kind of cancels it out. So whatever. Yeah, so we've just kind of moved on for that for now until maybe one day we get it back. So that's why we birthed Cult County. We're like, you know what? We want to do another Dementium, so we will, but we'll just do it differently.
Yeah, it would make sense. Not that the Dementium IP isn't valuable, but it's really the creative minds behind it that I think have the reputation, especially at this point, because a lot of people discovered you through Mutant Muds and have gone back to see a really diverse catalog of stuff you guys have put out. You don't kind of just stick with one look or one feel. You're willing to try so many different things, which I think has people really curious about what you're going to do next. I'm certainly curious about it. So how do you think the combat in Cult County? That's the one thing I didn't get a sense of yet. I just imagine bashing something's head in.
Exactly.
That was my first guess. But since it is first person, you've got the whole first person, the multi-millions of people will buy a game just if they get to shoot something in first person. That genre has on lock a huge install audience. So are you tempted at all to go into the kind of first person tropes that you know have an audience, or are you sticking kind of to...
No, I mean, that isn't really... That isn't a strong motivation to do anything with the game as far as that kind of stuff. It's really... we want it to be an authentic survival experience. And what does that mean? You don't have much. You're not that powerful, but they are. I'm scared. You know, like if the balance is like that, you might be like, you know what? I think I'm just going to run inside where they can't get me or whatever. Or, rather than just mow them down. But that's fun. So we might have moments where you may have a projectile weapon. And if you want to just unload the clip into someone, you can, but then you have no more ammo, so good luck with that. So there'll be moments of action, so I think that's important. Contrast is important, in games. So, so I think primarily it'll be a melee combat kind of game with projectile combat kind of just littered throughout, which is, we kind of did that in Dementium 1. Dementium 2 got a little bit more action-y, which I like that game, but... ideally, I would have liked it to have been even more like Dementium 1, but just a little bit more refined. Whereas Dementium 2 is more action, which is great, but that's not really what was the original intention. So it kind of went a little bit off course there, which is okay. It's an okay game, but I'd like to get back to... I mean, my big inspiration, and Greg's is as well, is Silent Hill 2. And that's really just a slow, grow, kind of awesome, amazing experience. And I'm still trying to capture that, basically, with our games. Not that Cult County will be that, but that's certainly a big, influence.
That's just the fact that you're doing that has me excited that that's an inspiration for you. Dementium, I always thought of it more as kind of a sci-fi psychiatric hospital thriller, and Cult County looks to be... It gives me, just only knowing from what you've told me and from playing the demo, I get the sense that it will somehow be more about culture and maybe have some comments about American culture in it somewhere, whereas Dementium was more about kind of exploring the fears we all have in our subconscious. Cult County, I was assuming it was going to make me afraid of actual human beings, maybe, the kind that I might see in real life. Is that something I'm heading the right direction in, or am I off track?
Yeah, no, that's certainly, I mean, to some degree, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's set in, a Texas town. So there is a sense of reality to it. But of course, because we like to have fun, and also fiction allows us to have fun with the design and create gameplay, there'll be some fantasy elements to it. Not like guys, not like Barbarian or anything, just made up stuff.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you where my imagination has gone already, is that there may be a cult, and they may somehow invoke some supernatural elements, and some of the people in the town may believe it, some may not, some may want to side with the supernatural elements, some may not, and finding your place in that is going to be part of the fear, because finding your place in any group, it's scary to think you might be talking to the wrong people and making the wrong decisions. So that's what I was hoping to get.
Yeah, and you're definitely on the right track. I mean, we definitely want to play with players. I mean, no, you're pretty close, man. You definitely want to play with the players' expectations where you're not sure who to trust, you know, and there'll be moments where the person that you knew you shouldn't trust, yeah, you shouldn't have done, but then there'll be times when you're like, oh, wow, I didn't expect that person to do that. That's interesting. So, yeah, we're playing with that, and I guess it's an extreme. I don't want to go off too much on this track because I know it's a very sensitive subject. But yes, it's an extreme look at religion, I suppose, but in a really, hopefully, fictional way. We're not calling out any religion and saying, you know, it's just generally the thoughts of how people can embrace certain things and choose to do so, what that can lead to.
Well, I know it must be. It's a brave move. One I'm not sure I would have the guts to take because people's religions are so close to their hearts oftentimes. So it doesn't sound like you're... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that's what makes... I mean, with a horror game, I should say it's a horror game, a survival game, more really, because whatever. You have to touch on a nerve, right? You have to touch on emotions, otherwise, good luck, you know? And I think that's why... You know, Silent Hill did really well because it's more that mental kind of thing. We kind of did a similar thing with Dementium. I think touching on things that are kind of sensitive, you know, help, and it creates, it just touches into the emotions that way, which is nice. And well, for us, like with Dementium, you know, it was kind of we want to go with the medical kind of hospital kind of theme. So now our intention, and I think it came true. I'm not. You tell me. Was that is unique. Dementium is the survival horror game that's hospital-based as far as video game. You know, it's pretty unique in that way. You know, it's not just like, oh, it's a rip-off of Silent Hill, even though it kind of is, but it's got its own identity at the same time, you know? And then we're trying to do the same thing with Cult County, and I think stepping into the visual style of a very dusty, very brown kind of Texas town is great, and then the natural stereotypes you think of with that location, especially if you're not from there, or even if you are. I mean, I'm in Texas, and I haven't been to some of these West Texas towns, and I don't really want to, honestly. But we actually are going to go and visit some of them anyway, and take some reference and talk to some people, which is going to be interesting. But anyway, we're going to do that.
For me, Dementium made me afraid of what might be in my subconscious that I can't control. That was kind of the idea was that, you know, is this in my head? Am I able to have a grasp on reality? Can I trust myself? With Cult County, what I'm expecting is, can I trust other people? Are people going to be motivated by maybe their religious beliefs or maybe something beyond my understanding that's going to cause them to do things I would have never expected a human being to do? That's what I'm expecting to be afraid of. And that's what I got from Silent Hill 2. Certainly, though, crossed with kind of the fear of their own subconscious as well. So, interesting. And it's going to be some time, I'd imagine, before you have something playable on this because it is so big and ambitious.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing is, it is going to be some time. We're definitely wanting to take our time with this because we see this as our one shot to establish a new sort of a horror brand. You know, we want to take it beyond first episode, hopefully. But the nice thing is, what allows us to kind of be kind of more efficient is that it is episodic. You know, so we can focus on the first episode. Let's say that's, you know, between 2 and 4 hours. You know, and the price is according to that value that you're getting. Then the amount of assets we pour into that isn't as much, of course, as a full-fledged, you know, $30, $40 game or whatever on the 3DS. So that's kind of nice. So it allows us to kind of focus our resources on a smaller real estate area, which is pretty cool. So that kind of helps.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And to give people a low jumping-on point.
Yeah.
Kind of a low price to take a risk on it.
Yeah, exactly.
And hopefully that'll just grow your audience in the process. Are you encouraged at all by how games like The Last of Us, games like even The Walking Dead, which, though it's not survival horror in the strictest sense of the term, it is very much about relationships, being in a place, and seeing people get pushed to do things they wouldn't normally do because of the circumstances they're in. That's where a lot of the tension for me came with both The Last of Us and The Walking Dead. Are you encouraged to see that do so well. Because for a while, the survival horror people were thinking, oh, the zombies are just good for shooting now. It's not.
Yeah.
And horror people don't want to have that unpleasant feeling. They want to feel empowered all the time. And in the past few years, for whatever reason, horror seems to be really making a comeback.
Yeah, and that's very encouraging. Yeah, that's great. I mean, us, Greg and I, especially being fans of the genre, and obviously wanting to, and that's why we want to make one, is because we like playing them. It's like, yeah, we agree. I mean, it's fun to play that, So that's why we wanted to kind of go this direction with, and honestly, Silent Hill 2 kind of proved it, right? Many years ago, that kind of relationship, the communication with NPCs, and what that does to your experience. That's what Silent Hill 2 is about. Without you take them out, it's really half a game. It's all about those weird experiences and those, like, what's going on and questioning what he meant and what I'm thinking and all the rest of it. It's like, what? Yeah, no, definitely. So it's good to see with Walking Dead, it's even more of a normal, low-key version of that. There's no insane people, really. It's just emotional relationships, which is really cool. Yeah, I mean, like the TV show, of course, does an incredible job of that, with you caring about people, but you know it's the type of show where that person actually could die. And that's awesome because it's scary, and you care for them. It makes it even more impactful. Whereas, if there's another TV show like Dallas or whatever, I don't know why I thought of Dallas, but anyway, they're not going to die, apart from Bobby. But even when he does die, he wakes up in the shower, next season. So it's like, really, exactly. So so it's nice that it's possible any of these characters could die, and that's great. That's good TV because you're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? So yeah, no, it's great, very encouraging, and they're all big inspirations for us. Yeah, we were big fans of that.
Good to know. That's given me even more ideas about how you may end up pulling the rug out from under me in Cult County. It sounds like that's something really.
Once we've got the first episode done, I'd love to chat with you about it, and you can analyze it and tell me where we did things right and where we did things wrong.
Thanks for caring about my opinion at all. Don't know why you would exactly, but it's very flattering. I appreciate it. And Treasurenauts, hopefully, will be coming out sooner. That's felt to me like the spiritual successor to Mutant Muds. I was guessing that you took the things that you learned, not so much in terms of like continuing Mutant Muds' feel and look, but in terms of this worked on this platform. Let's blow that up.
Yeah.
That's what I guessed from looking at it.
Yeah, it's we did. I mean, we have started some work on Mutant Muds 2, which we've talked about a long time ago. And but we've because we're so small and it just takes us time to do it. We've ported Muds to iOS and PC and Wii U and stuff like that. We're going to do a few more ports in the future, which you can talk about in a few minutes if you want.
Oh, cool, yeah. So,
so it's been like the 2 years of Mutant Muds. So it's like, my gosh, it's getting a little out of hand. So we're like, you know what? Let's put some room between that Mutant Muds 1 and 2, because I think if we did Mutant Muds 2 straight away, it's almost a bit oversaturated in that way, which is a great thing to be able to say, that it is oversaturated at all. Because if it was undersaturated, then I'd be sad. But so that was one of the aspects of why we're like, you know what, let's do something different. Let's do. I mean, I love puzzle games. I love platform games. It's not a puzzle game. I love platform games. So let's do something different. We have a great engine already. What more can we do with it? And it's kind of inspired by Metroid and still Super Mario World, of course. A little bit of Spelunky in there. So it has a lot of weird little kind of things that I'm putting. Rick Dangerous, even if you remember that from the old days.
Sure.
So kind of pulling, from all of that, pulling it together. Yeah.
And is it multiplayer as well? That's
yeah. That's a really cool component. It's that's a big kind of part of the game. It's interesting. So I'm actually literally in the middle of designing the levels now, which is interesting. Where you can play the game as one player if you want, and you can get through it. And the whole point, the story, pretty weak on story, but the story is Bad Pirate Pete has dropped you off on an island, and he's like, go and get a bunch of treasure, and when you've got enough, I'll give you a lift off of this island, and that's it. Really simple. So your idea is get enough treasure that's worth this value. That exact value is to be determined, but a lot. So you have to get that, come back, and then he'll give you a write-off. So, it's not taking itself seriously. The story, it's completely silly. But it's basically get on this island, explore it, collect as much crap as you can, and then come back. And there's also a couple of multiple endings based on a few criteria that you may or may not meet, that may or may not be really transparently even in your face, and you'll just realize it and go, oh, okay, interesting. Or this game sucks, whatever. But yeah, the multiplayer component's really cool because you can play a single player and get through it. But something that's really neat and I find really, really just interesting is with 2 players, it actually makes the whole experience easier and quicker, which is kind of strange. The games don't usually have that effect. When you do multiplayer, yeah, you can mow more stuff down and kill more things, great, whatever, but usually the game will just throw more stuff at you because it knows there's multiple people, so it's really a wash at the end of the day. You're like, great, whatever. With this, because of the way the maps are laid out, and you're not tethered together on one screen, you can just split up and go wherever you want on that one map, not just the whole game, but in the one level load. So you can cover more ground and collect treasure at the same time, simultaneously, as you both go off and do your thing. So that's one aspect, obviously, that makes it kind of quicker to reach your end goal. But at the same time, there will be situations where you're absolutely required to have 2 people to get up to that ledge. Like I have to jump on top of your head to jump up here to get there. Otherwise, as a 1 player, you can get to the first boss, defeat that guy, and has bosses, yay! Defeat that guy and get a power up, which is the double jump, and so you can get up to the ledge there as a 1 player. But with a 2 player, you can get up there sooner. You could otherwise, and so on. So there's stuff like that, and sometimes it's true pressure plates, kind of 4 Swords kind of style, where you both have to stand in it, and a little door will open up, and now you can go in there. Otherwise, you just can't. So as a 1 player, you will never be able to get in there. You have to get a friend. Now the cool thing is, if you've got 2 3DSs and 1 copy of the game, you can do download play. So you just get another friend with a 3DS, and they can play with you. So they're trying to just get rid of the barrier of like how do people play together, because yeah. So that's kind of what it in a nutshell. I'm aiming for it to be out before the end of the year. That's the hope. So
interesting to do a Metroid-style, large-scale power-up collecting exploration game where you're allowing and almost maybe encouraging people to play it with more than 1 person and have that kind of local co-op adventure experience where you're communicating with each other verbally about you go here, get that, I'll go here. There's a dynamic that happens when you play a video game with another person next to you that a lot of people, I feel like it's coming back, but it definitely died out for a little while. And it sounds like you may be encouraging them to do that just because the game will be faster to get through and more empowering. Is that a decision you're making consciously? Do you want it to be easier to play co-op, or is that just kind of a natural byproduct?
Yeah, we want the 2-player experience to be a benefit. Actually something that brings something to the game rather than there's 2 people playing the game. We want it to there be an advantage to that, so it has extra value. And yeah, it's really interesting. It's strange. I mean, and the other thing is the world map is kind of more like Super Mario World in a way. But it's the treasure map, it's a little bit smaller. But you can select which level you want to go to if you've beaten the one before it, kind of thing. So even though it has kind of the Metroid thing where you can enter a level, but if you don't have the double jump, for example, or whatever other power up, you can't get anywhere in the level. So you have to kind of exit out until you've got that power up, or have 2 people. So you have the backtracking without the backtracking, because you just back out to the map, I want to go to that level, you're in. So it's interesting. It's got a few things going on there which excites me personally. I think it's going to be neat, once we actually get to play it all for real, which will be hopefully pretty soon. Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty cool. But it is a very light game. It's not a big, heavy, like Metroid adventure, which is, I don't even know how many hours if you were playing it, normally. It's a much lighter, smaller experience, much more tight. It's not got oodles of power-ups or anything, just a couple. So it's a simple game because it's also encouraging you to try and maybe replay it a couple of times to do a better job than you did last time. So that almost requires it to not be overly big, because then you wouldn't want to do it. So it's interesting. Yeah, it's a cool.
Yeah. Sounds it. Sounds. Are you worried at all about, or are you maybe even wanting to encourage any sort of sequence breaking? Because that's one of my favorite things about going back to a lot of Way Forward games. You can do that. Metroid games, you can do that. Some Mario games, you can do that. You think you know the fastest way to get through a level, but if you go back, you can go back and try it again. You can find ways to break, or at least feel like you broke the rhythm that the developer put out for you, and find your own way to get through it, maybe even faster. That's already the feeling I'm getting from the idea of the co-op, the way you've implemented it. Is that something you want to... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I mean, actually, even in a single player, but yeah, especially as a multiplayer, yeah, it's designed that way, to be open. So, I mean, there's certain obstacles that you'll come into, but generally speaking, yeah, you have a lot of freedom to kind of do what levels you want at certain parts, yeah. So,
interesting. And there's multiple characters as well, is that right?
There are. As many as we can get made in time, yes. At least 8 is what I've been saying. But hopefully,
really?
Yeah.
That's a lot. Do they all have different abilities? I know they look different.
There's 2 tiers. There's 2 tiers to the character select. So the first is just cosmetic, just how they look, just personal preference. And the next thing is you choose what weapon you like. So it's firearm, sword, or bomb. And they're all different as far as rate of fire, range, and damage that they cause. They're all different from each other. So it's up to you which one you want to choose. And you can swap it out on the world map. You can go to the little store and swap it out anytime. So you're not like married to that for the whole game or anything. You can change it whenever you want. So it's down to personal preference. So it's a little bit of variety in that as well, which will be interesting. And then actually getting those to work with bosses is going to be a significant challenge.
Yeah, I was just thinking of that. With Mega Man, when I think of bosses and weapon choice, especially here in Bomb and like melee attack, I immediately think of Mega Man. Like, could I ever beat Hard Man with the top spin? Probably not. So if I chose top spin, I'd be screwed. But at the same token, the Mega Man X games, I would go back and replay them just to find out which weapon gave a special death animation to the bosses. Like, I think it's Sponge Cucumber or something from Mega Man X2. If you attack him with the a slashing weapon, he gets cut in half, kind of like an old samurai movie. Like he gets cut and then slowly. Yeah, yeah. I'd love to see stuff like that in Treasurenauts. I would play the game all over again just to see things get cut in half.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Nice. So yeah, it's fun, man. I'm super excited about the game. I think that's going to be really cool. It's and, you know, it seems. I mean, one of the reasons was, you know, Muds has done pretty well. Bomb Monkey didn't do that well. So it seems like there's definitely, you know, and it seems like Mighty Switch Force and VDV and games like that have done really well in the eShop as well. It just seems like there's an audience for that really wants that type of game, and there really isn't that many decent platformers outside of what Nintendo's doing, you know? There's a lot on the PC, and there's a lot more coming out. But I mean, on the eShop specifically, on Nintendo platforms, there's not that many, which is not many good ones anyway. I was really
it's strange because they have, like you said, Muds did well, VVVVV did well. My understanding is Cave Story did pretty well.
Cave Story did really well as well.
For Nicholas. But for whatever reason, the 3DS hasn't been embraced by small developers in the way that I imagined it would. The install base has really grown. People have proven that games sell there, but right now the eShop is kind of in flux. I'm not sure where it's headed in terms of smaller development. First of all, why do you think that is, and also why do you continue to put just about every game you're developing? It sounds like that's the lead platform.
I think more developers aren't doing it because it's very specialized hardware. So the engine you create or use to make a game for that only works on a 3DS. You know, so you mean like Unity, for example. You know, that works on the Wii U, and you know, which is a new kind of support, and obviously all the other current platforms, except 3DS. So you're really kind of gambling and putting a lot of eggs in a basket to go with the 3DS in that way if you don't have the resources to really, you know, pick and choose. You know, which is risky, you know, for an independent developer. I mean, it's much less risky to jump onto Unity, and it's a lot less work to get it working on, you know, mobile phones, PSN, XBLA, etc., PC for free with that one. So I think that's why. Why do we stick with it? I mean, a lot of it is just that we're fans of 3DS and Nintendo. That's a huge part of it. I mean, I love this, my XL. Look at that.
It's interesting that you get to make those kinds of personal. Like when you look back at the end of your life, are you going to think, I put those games out on the platforms that I wasn't as excited to play them on myself, but I did it because I thought, this is where I might make the most money. Or you'll be able to look back and be like, I just followed my heart on that. I did what felt best.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, as we move forward, we're going to try and support more platforms because that is a very important aspect of us staying independent, making enough money to be independent. You know, the last 5 years, 6 years, we're working with publishers. We want to do it differently now. You know, we want to make our own games that make our own money, that allow us to make games and just keep that cycle going. That's much more fulfilling on pretty much any level compared to what we were doing. So yeah, and I think we have to include other platforms. You know, we have a Vita and a PS3 dev kit now. We got those recently. Which segue. Which means, we'll be porting Muds over to the Vita and PS3. Oh, snap. So we'll be bringing that over to that in the future. I think we kind of have to. I think all of our games, even if we can't get them all on release day on every platform, we'll slowly try and at least get them on there at some point. Just so we can make more money and make more games, really.
Sure.
So,
yeah, and make more people happy. I'd imagine that if you could, you would just put everything on everything right away. But it's not quite that simple. And I'm encouraged to hear that Sony hopefully has been helpful in getting you to develop for their consoles, because you are definitely an asset to have. I know Nintendo is quite pleased with you.
Do you know Shane Beckenhausen?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's my contact there. So we've been chatting for the last few years, and we finally got it sorted out.
Awesome.
Back and forth and just never got serious about it, and then I guess now we're serious. Dating couple now.
So that's PS3 and PS Vita. Any PS4 potential?
Sure, potential, absolutely, yeah. I mean, we're just going to go with what's there for now. And that's actually probably the best idea because it has the biggest audience, right? I mean, PS4, it's going to have that ramp up. There's going to be a big initial surgence, but whatever. So it's good to go with the platforms that have the most users for now, and then we can look at PS4 later. So yes, I'm actually really excited about that. I think having Muds on the Vita is going to be cool. The plan, don't quote me on this. The plan is to have it so it's on the Vita and the PS3, PSN, and have like a single save.
Sure.
Or something else. Whatever.
I can't remember what they call it, but
whatever they call it.
Yeah.
What is it called? Crossplay, I guess, right?
Crossplay is when you can. Yeah, that's when you can play either. Yeah. And also, you only have to buy it once. Too.
Right, and that's the plan as well. You'll buy the game once for Sony, and it'll work on Vita and PS3, and seamlessly to play at home. So it's kind of, it should be pretty awesome.
Awesome.
I'm looking forward to it. On the Vita screen. It's going to look beautiful.
Yeah, it is the prettiest of the. Well, I like the Wii U screen too, though.
Yeah,
it's hard for me to decide. Yeah. Do you think that 3DS would have been as attractive to you if the eShop market was as crowded as like the iOS market is? Because you guys really do stand out. You get to, when you announce a game on the 3DS, it's like one of the top tier eShop developers is putting something out. Whereas on the iOS, you can't even keep up with that market. Yeah. There's so many announcements every day for everything.
Saying that, by the way, it's very kind of.
Oh, it's true.
No, definitely, yeah. If the 3DS was as crowded as the iOS, it wouldn't have been half as attractive. Yeah, definitely.
And then, how have the sales compared on 3DS, iOS, and Wii U for Mutant Muds thus far?
I mean, obviously, the most on 3DS. iOS actually did pretty good. Surprising. I mean, it released at $1, which was probably a mistake in hindsight, but whatever. Live and learn.
Well, you wrote a really interesting article about that. Maybe you could speak to it a little bit, because some people were upset. They were like, this guy charged me $10 for a hamburger, and now he's selling to other people for $1. Why did he take $10 for my hamburger? But you I thought your response to that was very interesting.
It's interesting. Yeah, we don't control the markets, the people do. And when you go on the App Store and you see, you look at 100 games, 90% of them are free at 99 cents, and that's just the way it is. Even Sonic is on there for $4.99, which is a legendary kind of game. So, we just look at what I do is I look at the market and go, okay, what is that market doing? Regardless of what we did over here, that's actually irrelevant, unfortunately. We look at this new market and go, what's the trend over here? What's going on over here? Because if we suddenly came out, Muds, iOS, boom, $8.99 like it was for the eShop, people would be like, I'm not going to pay that for an iOS game. It's like, fair enough. No one else is selling games for that amount, so I get it. So, we just have to be competitive in each market. I think we probably could have sold it for $2.99 out the gate and done okay. When you look at, was it Ridiculous or Radical Fishing? Ridiculous Fishing?
Ridiculous Fishing, yep.
I think that came out at $2.99. Great game. Did really well. I was like, damn it, we could have sold Muds for that. But Muds is, and that's the weird thing about the market now. Muds is $4.99 on iOS because we live in a weird world and it's Wild West, and that's just the way it is.
I had no idea. I hadn't kept track. And it's how much on the Wii U?
Wii U is $9.99.
Right, but it's got additional content on it.
It does. There's 20 new levels, taking it to 80. And it's just crazy. We're just trying to be as competitive in each market as we can, and make enough money for us to keep on making games. And it's random. It's so random. You look at all the prices of stuff out there. It's crazy. There's not a method to the madness.
Well, I would hope this is what I tell people when they get upset about those sorts of things and want to talk to me about it. And they're usually disappointed because instead of saying, you're right, you should be mad, I'm like, nah. I mean, you have the option to buy this thing for the prices it's released on, and you have to expect that person putting out the game, he wants to not die. So he's got a price accordingly, and the choices he makes, if you don't agree with them, you can speak with your dollar about it, but to take it personally, I always, I'm sorry.
What I thought was kind of frustrating, honestly, is when people, let's say they bought the 3DS version, and they were happy with their purchase, they liked the game, until the iOS comes out at less than they paid for, and they go, well, what? But it hasn't affected you. I haven't done anything to you. You enjoyed your time, and you're good, right? I mean, it's kind of weird, almost like, well, I was screwed. Well, you didn't feel screwed a minute ago. And the reality is, the iOS version is less than the 3DS version as far as the experience. There's virtual buttons, etc.
Sure, 3D. The 3D effect on Mutant Muds is really nice. Yeah.
It really works really well. Yeah. I mean, obviously, and that's the one thing. Obviously, the 3DS version has the 3D and the buttons, but even that, it's such a random market, because the Wii U version's out, and that's $9.99, okay, but it has 20 extra levels. So if you're a 3DS person, should you then be happy, that you only pay $1 extra on the Wii U, and you've got 20 more levels than you did, actually 40 more levels than you did originally when you bought the original 3DS version. So maybe I should be upset that we're selling for even less on the Wii U. It's all a bunch of silliness.
Yeah, it's right for people to want to know how the developer they're working with, that they're buying game from, feels about them, and if you're trying to do right by them, but to let your experience be diminished by the fact that you're now more worried about how much money you paid for something than whether you valued it. You get caught up in that competition of being, I'm going to be the guy that spends the least money for having the most fun. It seems like you're spinning your wheels there.
Yeah. It's wacky, and I get it. If I was in their shoes and I paid this, and suddenly I see it out for less money somewhere else, I'd be pissed off too. I mean, I get it, but like you say, we're just trying to survive. We're just trying to do our best, and it's not an excuse. It's just a reason. It is an explanation, and and there isn't a good answer for it, because it just isn't. There's no good reason for any of this happening. The market's just nutty, and they're completely compatible right now. It's a mess. Digital,
like you said, the Wild West, and people are trying to stake their claim. I imagine it will until something else.
This is pretty new. Like these digital markets are pretty new. You know, like a couple of years old, really. You know, so they'll level out. They'll figure themselves out. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. But yeah, the next thing we're going to try with Cult County is the whole episodic stuff. So that's going to be interesting. The whole DLC and adding it all on. So that'll be a whole new thing for people to complain about.
Do you think there's any chance you should? My advice to you, not that I'm one to give advice.
I'll take it. I'll like your advice. You have good brain stuff going on.
Thank you for saying that. If up front you tell people we will never collect all of these episodes together with bonus content and sell it at retail, then, well, you'd have to really decide that up front, though, which would be hard. But a lot of people, I'm guessing, will be like, oh, episodic? I'll wait for the collection. Because the market has been...
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Nintendo would allow this, but exactly, it would be nice to have the power as far as the person who's still in the game, whether you call that a publisher, developer, or whatever, because that line is kind of blurring now, which is really interesting. Where, you know what, let's say we've made 10 episodes, which would be awesome, you know, and yeah, exactly, we release a special Mumbo Jumbo pack where you can get those 10 a fraction of the price or whatever. It'd be great to go, you know what, we can detect on your unit that you bought those 10. Boom, we'll give you a free whatever. Maybe there is a way of doing that. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a programmer. I don't get into that whole thing, so I don't know. But maybe there is a way. Actually, there probably is a way from a save file kind of situation, at least, anyway.
Well, I've actually ranted with other game developer friends about that, and they've told me that you have to plan for that ahead of time. So, like, the first episode of Cult County would have to be ready for that.
Right.
But maybe...
We could do a free update, though.
Yeah, you could patch it, right?
Reprogram the first one and just do a free update before you get the subsequent ones, which is nice. You can always go back. In the digital age, we can fix our mistakes.
Yeah, for better or worse.
Yeah. Like, yeah, we added those 20 levels to the original 3DS Muds, which is pretty cool. So now just as standard, it has 60, right, on the 3DS, yeah, which is really cool.
That's right. And Granny. Granny wasn't in there at the start.
That's right. Now Granny's in there, yeah. Which is pretty cool. Good old Granny. She's awesome.
She is. I love the fact that, and for people, man, I feel guilty a little bit because I've become familiar with you enough that I haven't gone over who you are and what your games even are. I'm just kind of hoping people keep up with us. Muds is a game about a boy who has a gun and he fights mud aliens, and he has the exact same face of his grandma, which for me really left the playing field. Like you think, oh, male protagonist,
right.
A boy, it's you know, playing into that old trope again. You're like, no, you can be his grandma, and it's just the same character except gray hair and a dress, right. And she's also awesome.
She's actually more awesome because she can have all 3 power-ups at once. She's actually more awesome than Max. Because everyone's like,
but she's got more problems.
I want to play Max with all 3 power-ups. Like, no, that's Granny. It's what Granny brings. Because she's the mastermind, right? She creates all the gadgets. Like, one day we may actually revisit this and actually kind of explain this. And a lot of this is from Matthew Gambrell, who's the programmer of the game. He kind of has created this whole backstory, which is hilarious, where she, as a young person, like, kicked Mud's ass like decades ago. So she's a freaking master. And she's made up all of these gadgets and stuff. So she's really like the Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of, you know, character. So that's why she's the badass, because she really is the badass. And she's still kicking ass, and she's a grandma.
I had no idea. Is that revealed over in the game?
No, it's not revealed. No, it's stuff that we talk about and joke about. It's not in the game, but that is what has happened. That she is, you know. So one day we'll probably explain all of this somehow. But yeah,
Can you hear that car alarm, by the way?
No.
I have a wretched car alarm.
No, I don't.
Oh, phew. That would have just ruined the whole show because this show has auto camera switching. So if there's a sound, it'll just be me making faces with a car alarm while you're saying all these great things.
That'd be fun.
Glad that didn't happen.
So I have some questions for you.
Oh, what?
You ready?
That's wild.
All right, let's do this. So I actually asked a few people on Twitterverse for some questions.
Did you really? Why? Before you start, why would you think? I mean, who cares? I'm just that man who asks other people things.
Some of these guys do, apparently.
You're kidding. All right. Well, thank you, you guys.
So Largo asks, would you want to put your brilliant creativity to a game, and like become a developer or something like that?
Who, me?
You. This is for you. From Ed
Whoa.
Lago.
That is very flattering, Ed. I don't
Brilliant
think.
creativity.
I've thought about things that I wish other people would make for a game, but I don't
You never thought
have.
about getting into development yourself for games?
I just know how much hard work it is, and the fun part, I assume, is this idea you have, and you think, oh, the potential for this idea is limitless. Wouldn't it be fun if this became a game someday?
Right.
And then you actually have to make it. And
Right,
that's
that's been the fun
incredibly
part.
hard and scary, and you put your life on the line, you put your finances on the line, you put your family on the line. I have the utmost respect for anyone who is willing to take that gamble. I mean, it's like all the risk of going to LA and thinking I'm going to become an actor,
Right.
except 5 times the work, and the amount of different kinds of work you need to know how to do. Like, you can code, you can design a level, you can create graphics. The reason I do this show is because I think game developers are the most multi-talented, intellectually diverse, like the different kinds of intellect you guys need to have, plus just risk-taking people probably in arts and entertainment in general today, more so than people who make movies. No offense, you guys, movies are great too, but there's something to game development that's different.
You seem to definitely have that spirit, you know? I think if you dove into that, I think you'd be all over it. I think you'd be great.
That's very nice of you to say. I will help anyone make a game. I might be a boss in a game coming up.
There we go.
And
Oh, really?
I do. I have volunteered the Teenage Pokemon idea, and particularly in Teenage Pokemon, the Pokemon play a game called Token Man, where it's all archetypes, stereotypes like Metalhead, Weeaboo, Emo Goth, that sort of thing. It's human beings fighting each other, and the Pokemon own them and like train them. I volunteered that idea to some developers. They can have it and make it in any way they want, and I would help them. But actually doing the nitty-gritty and getting it done myself, I don't have the guts. I just don't have the guts.
I think it'd be interesting to have you involved in like the design phase of a game, you know, because like, and it's funny, like a good friend of mine, Kynan Pearson, who do you know him? He used to work with Retro. He worked on Metroid Prime and Donkey Kong Returns.
Who is this?
Kynan Pearson.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
And now he went to 343, worked on Halo 4 multiplayer. He was a lead multiplayer dude, designer. And now he's moved back to Austin to work with Bluepoint, who are the guys who did the HD versions. They've done a bunch of stuff. One of the ones that sticks in my mind is the HD versions of Metal Slug for Sony. Anyway, awesome guy, a very talented designer. I just want to give you some backstory. And anyway, so I was chatting with him the other day about design, and it is interesting, like, we've known each other for years, where you only, from our perspective, because we're designers, and that's our main kind of background, is we talk about, it's interesting how we've met very few people who seem to get it. You know, in your mind, it's like an artist. You have the eye for artwork, or you don't, and you can learn that, but you either have it or you don't, or you can get it. And design's a similar way, where it kind of just clicks, and you look at it like, I guess, in a Matrix kind of way, where you just look at it from behind the scenes, the mechanics and the thoughts, and how this can react to the player, and how will that work, and how can I manipulate that, blah, whatever. You can kind of imagine all of that rather than just the surface stuff. You're digging deeper on the thought of the idea. Anyway, you strike me as someone who kind of has that. So I think you well at design. You have a good insight with the design.
That means a lot to me. Thank you. It's something I have the utmost respect for people, I think, who get design better than I do, which is most people. But I do love just thinking about it. I love thinking about how the parts of a game are put together to not so much, well, with games in particular, they don't lead you to an experience. They make you feel like you created it, and the way you give the player a sense of involvement with this experience they're having is pretty amazing. Well, thanks, Ed. That was Ed Lago?
Ed Lago.
Thanks, Ed Lago.
Ed Lago. All right, so the next question is Gabriel Cadalzo. That's a cool name. Gabriel Cadalzo. Very nice. What Wii U games or eShop games are you looking forward to?
Oh, I can't believe you're asking me more than one question.
I have quite a few. Like, well, I have 3 from Twitter, 3 from me, then I have a rapid fire round if we have time for it.
That is very surprising. Geez, that's tough. I have a tough time going through my internal checklist when I'm on the
I guess
spot.
what he means by that is probably Wii U or 3DS games. He said Wii U
Right.
Eshop, so I'm thinking he might mean 3DS there as well. I don't know.
Sure. There's a lot I'm looking forward to. Seeing if I can remember the names of them. Citizens of Earth, I believe, is one of the games. It's not coming out for a long time. It is a 2D. I'm pretty sure I have the name right, and they might have changed it a few times. It's a developer. Got to have him on the show at some point. He's worked for big studios before. He's gone indie. He loves Earthbound. He wanted to make a RPG that kind of mocks the political system while focusing on the things he loved the most about Earthbound. So you play as...
Wii U?
I'm sorry, say it?
Wii U?
Yeah, Wii U. It's he's been working on it for a while already, but it's all hand-drawn art, HD, so it's taking him a little while. You play a politician, so you don't actually do anything. You just tell other people, like, we need someone to go kill the cake monsters in the cave. Get the chef.
Right.
So then you play as the chef and kind of manage your party based on the citizens of your town and get them to do the things you want done. So there's a little bit of satire and humor in there, and a lot of just pretty artwork and fun RPG stuff. That's a Wii U one. I'm looking forward to whatever you're going to do on the Wii U next, as well as Way Forward. I've heard Gaijin Games is working on some stuff there. Hopefully that's true. They're doing a lot of things at once.
I love those guys. They're good guys. All of those guys you mentioned, but yeah, Alex and Mike, they're good guys. I've met them a few times at the different shows. Good guys.
Yeah, I could see you getting along with them well. Nicholas, I'm very interested to play.
Yep.
Aban Hawkins and the 1001 Spikes on the Wii U. That's the console I'm most excited to play it on because of the multiplayer aspects. 3DS is just, there's so many games. It's hard to even count. And so many Japanese games are really, it seems like the Japanese developers have finally decided they're going to jump on board with that. I feel like for a while they were trying to decide, is 3DS or PS Vita going to be the direction I want to go in, because PSP did so well for a bit there, but right now the Vita is still not comparable to 3DS in terms of sales, so
doing pretty well, though, huh? It seems like.
The 3DS?
Sorry, the Vita?
It's doing all right. Yeah, it's doing better than it was. But from what I've seen anyway, in terms of not so much console sales, but game sales, 3DS tends to trounce it pretty regularly still in Japan. I'm sure that'll change in time.
Yeah,
but
3DS
for right now,
crazy good. It's doing really well.
Yeah, what a relief. There was a time there where people weren't sure.
I know,
we jumped in almost right away, but
yeah, people were really hating on it. It was really annoying.
Yeah, that was weird, right?
Yeah, it was really weird. People are very quick to be neggy pants. All right, next question from Light Agent. His question is, sup, Holmes?
I'm all right. I feel a little weird. It's a weird day for me. Teenage Pokemon coming out. Wondering if that's going to do all right. Talking to Jools Watsham, suddenly having him ask me questions. It's weird, but it's good. I'm so flattered that anyone cares about anything I do, so I'm doing okay.
Excellent. I'm sure he'll be happy to hear that. All right, so I've got 3 questions from me. As a kid, was there something that cemented your passion for video games? Because you obviously have a passion for video games. Can you think of a moment that really you're like, yeah, I love these things?
I think it's when I was probably 3 or 4. I was at a truck stop for some reason. And I don't think there were any adults around. So just a 3 or 4-year-old at a truck stop standing on a footstool in order to look at Pac-Man. And awesome. I didn't have any money. And I was like just looking at it, pretending I was playing it, thinking about the decisions I would have made if I had any money, wondering where these ghosts came from. Why do they want to kill Pac-Man? How do you kill death? How do you eat a ghost? This is both the questions of the mythology of Pac-Man and the design of Pac-Man.
That's intense for a 3 or 4-year-old to be considering these things, right?
I was an intense little kid, and I realized it too. So at that point, not only did I realize I loved Pac-Man, regardless if I got to play it or not, just thinking about Pac-Man was just as fun as playing it. Wow. I said to myself, you really like video games, kid. You are a kid who likes video games more than other kids. That's when I first noticed. And to this day, I can just lie around and think about video games for hours, not even play them.
That's what I'm saying. Designer right there. You don't even know it. All right.
Yeah.
That's right. Half the battle is just the passion. All right. Which video game company's game design philosophy do you admire the most?
Oh, that's hard. There's so many things, because a company is such a variety of different people. A lot of people think that I love Nintendo unconditionally, and that's because I love a lot of games that Nintendo has put out. A lot of their designers are great, but they've put out a lot of games that I have zero interest in. So it's hard to sum a company. But in terms of individual designers, there's a lot of people who, how can I pick a favorite? Gaijin Games has really impressed me over the years. Their fusion of their own personalities, and if you get to know them, they are just silly, anything goes kinds of people. But when it comes to design, they're very, very serious and like mathematical. And the way they've managed to fuse that together with the Bitrip series has really impressed me, especially their last game, which can be laugh out loud funny or just nail-bitingly tense or just like beautiful. Like, I can't believe they designed this. It's like music to play this. That's really impressed me. But that's not to say they're the absolute best. I love so many guys. Phil Fish, John Blow, people at Way Forward. They're working on a game that I think is really going to push the boundaries of design. One that like mixes every genre ever.
Have they announced it? That top secret?
No, unannounced. It's a secret. Sort of. Yeah. So too many people to count. But what I love, I guess I could say in general, is when a designer manages to put their own personality and leave their stamp, like their footprint, their fingerprint, on a game. So you feel like you're hanging out with them while you're playing it. Suda 51 does that very well. But also making the player feel really cared about. Like, I designed this thing so you would have an amazing time. I'm not making it about me. I'm making it about you, but also getting to be with you virtually through a game. Any designer who does that well, I will feel great after playing their game.
Nice. Very nice. Last question before the rapid fire round, if we have time for that, is...
I can't believe you want to do... This is your time, Jools! Okay. You could be like, all right, question's done, I want to talk about Jools Watsham again.
But you were being selfish because I want to know more about you. And then hopefully other people do.
Grief, Jools.
So it's good. Because we don't get to see each other very often, so I thought it was opportunity to say, hey, what's up? Okay, so third question. If you could make your ideal video game, what do you think you would make?
Oh, that's so hard. I would want to make something that made people feel funny. I think a lot of comedy games fail, and I talked about this before, because they make you feel like someone just told you a joke and then intensely stared at you, like, laugh at my joke, please.
That's funny, right? That's funny. Yeah, right.
It gives you this, a lot of comedy games without meaning to, they make you feel pressured to laugh, and that makes you feel very distanced from the game and the design. It's like a good game is a dance as opposed to watching a performance. So a game that can make the player feel like they are funny and they are with someone who is funny. A game that can surprise at every turn and leave you feeling as though you never know what to expect. And a game that has something to say about anything, as long as it at least tries to give you some meaning and give you some ideas. Because games, when people say video games are just completely mindless time wasters, that makes me so sad. Because our time is all we have. We run out of time, and that's it. Life over. It's the most valuable commodity there is. So, like Mutant Muds, for instance, on the surface, people may think, oh, it's just kind of a meaningless time waster. You're just a cute little guy shooting things, but it's not. It's a game about challenging your expectations and giving you a sense that if you try new things and think outside of the box, then you may be able to pull off something that seemed impossible at first. It's a whole genre that does that, but it's a very accomplished game in that genre, and it's a worthwhile genre just for that alone. People have told me playing Super Meat Boy, for instance, totally changed their outlook on what they're capable of doing in life, because that game makes you feel like you're up against an impossible obstacle, and then suddenly, after perseverance, you pull it off. So, yeah. So any game that delivers those kinds of messages and gives people the capacity for self-reflection like that, I'm all about.
That makes me think of, did you like the humor in Monkey Island?
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
So clever. Yeah, it's funny. It is actually funny. And they're not saying, that was funny, do you like it, do you like it, do you like it? It's just they throw it out there and they move on and they let you stew on it, you know, and you're like, oh, that was funny. But they're gone. They're ahead of you doing a new joke now, and you're like, okay, cool, let's go. Yeah, good
I
stuff.
think it's the pacing to it, like you said, and also the fact that you are the one choosing the punchline. Like, to me, the sword fighting bit in Monkey Island 1 is the great example of comedy in a game, because it's there's all these punchlines you're given.
Yeah, match of wits.
And sometimes the dumbest one, like I felt like a comedy genius by just saying, how appropriate, you fight like a cow, to everyone. Like, I thought I was just giving them all the things.
Funniest thing ever.
And it took genius writing to do that, but
really good.
Took genius game design to leave it open and let the player kind of guide the direction of the comedy. So
those games are just amazing, so freaking clever. And the artwork as well. You'll see in the background that like when you meet the three whatever's pirates, whatever they are, just the random stuff they're doing, and you're like, he's doing something silly. Yeah, it's really cool. All right, are you ready for the rapid fire round? I'm just going to ask you, and you say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Yes.
Okay. Well, actually, no, that's not true. You didn't just answer it. No worries. Just go with it. I changed it a little bit. I used to have something like that. I changed it. Bear with me. Bear with me. All right. What was the last thing you ate?
Coffee.
Was it crunchy? What was the last game you played? Video game.
Animal Crossing, New Leaf.
Snap. Oh, well, I'll do a sub-question. What's your native fruit?
Apples.
Delicious. Mine are peaches. All right. Name one thing that makes you happy.
Getting something done and being done with it, for sure.
Nice. Name one thing that makes you sad.
When I feel badly that I made people feel awful by making something for them that they expected to like, and then they're like, aw, but that sucked, though. That always makes me sad for them. Like, I feel a genuine sense of guilt when people don't like the stuff that I put out there.
Man, it's rough. Which do you think is worse, ignorance or naivete?
Ignorance. Naivete, similar to ignorance, but with kind of a sweet sense of humility and the capacity to try to learn from there. Yeah. I guess so. I don't know.
Yeah, so ignorance. I agree. Because I think like ignorance is almost like you're choosing to ignore something, obviously. Naivety, you just don't know any better, so what can you do? Yeah. All right, okay. If you had one wish, what would you wish for? Last question.
Oh, just one wish?
Well, you can't ask for more wishes. You're cheating.
I guess I would want to have, I guess I just live forever, because I'm a chicken. Yeah, I'll just live forever. I'll get to know all of you guys. I'll remember you and chronicle your experiences and be like the Watcher from Marvel. Just have a giant head and a toga and check it all out. Because I never want to stop seeing what people are doing. Yeah. I'm sad that I'm going to miss out on the future of video games.
Bittersweet.
Yeah, it would be. It would be sad, but it would be better than dying, I think. Pretty sure.
All right, cool. That's all my questions. I hope you enjoyed that. Cool.
I did, Jools. That was a surprise. A true surprise.
To this as well.
Yeah, clearly you did. You'd be a wonderful interviewer. Have you ever thought about just doing the journalism side of video games? It's a lot easier.
I actually, you know what's funny? That's actually how I started in the industry. For a year, I still have my business cards. I started at a magazine called The One.
Whoa!
This is still the pack that they came in. So it's a pack of, I don't even know, 100. I'm not sure. I haven't even opened it. It's just the actual little brown paper bag box. Sorry, with my business cards in there. Which I'm amazed I still have, because that was in '91 or something. It was a long time ago. But yeah, no, I worked at that magazine for a year, and I reviewed games and did news and stuff. My writing was terrible. My writing was so bad. No, seriously, it was awful. It was embarrassingly bad. Fortunately, it was a really good editor, Kieran Brennan, who ran the magazine. Huge Irish guy, really nice guy. He took my ridiculousness and made it look nice. So
That
I was
happens to
cheap.
a lot of
That's
writers.
why I got a job. I was paid about £6,500 a year.
I'm trying to think of how much. That doesn't sound like a lot.
It's about $9,000 maybe a year. I was like 17. I was like, whatever. Woo!
Huh, interesting.
Good times. Good times.
I was just writing for Nintendo Force magazine a little bit about how the people who, it's wonderful thing they're doing. We're doing, I should say. The guys who made Pokemon, a lot of people don't know this. They just started a fan magazine before anything else. That's where they funneled their passion into. Game Freak is the name of their company, and at first it was just a magazine called Game Freak, printed on photocopiers, basically, about how much they love video games, and the fact that they made Pokemon was a huge risk because it was made on the Game Boy. The Game Boy was dying. They'd done very little development at that time. The graphics were not up to par. The whole concept, turn-based RPG with no real story, where you just collect rats and balls. Not something that was a surefire hit, but they went for it, and Nintendo backed them for whatever reason.
That was their first game?
I don't think it was their first game, but it was their first big game.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure they had a couple before that, but that was their first kind of
Big one, yeah.
big-scale, published by Nintendo
Wow.
game, and pretty surprising that it turned into such a huge thing. Yeah, pretty happy for those guys. But back to you, Jools. I got all derailed. I want to think about you again.
Can't go dark.
I wanna make sure-
The sun's behind.
It got dark.
I know.
The sun
I
probably
noticed
is
that.
going down.
Weird.
You're in
Whatever. I was looking outside. Where's the sun gone? Usually it's like glaringly bright in here. It's only like 4:20 in the afternoon. It's bright until like 9 p.m. right now.
Huh, interesting. Maybe it's cloudy.
I guess so.
Can you tell us anything about Mutant Muds 2? What your ideas are? What kind of things you would want to try to achieve with it that you didn't get to do in the original?
Bosses, for sure. Definitely want to add bosses. Which shouldn't be a surprise, I don't think, to anyone. There's a lot of different thoughts, and I haven't fully cemented what it's going to be. But I think what it'll end up being is taking what Muds 1 is and not changing the core as far as the center core, the super, well, that is the center, right, the core, but just kind of adding to that, expanding that. So I don't want it to be a complete redo, like suddenly it's just completely different, you know, which a lot do that, like they're so different, which is great, you know, for some games, but for this I don't want to do that. I like the core, I just want to kind of grow from that. So, you know, bosses, more power-ups, more variety, more interesting enemies, just more, basically.
So would you say it would be like, would it be like Super Mario Galaxy 2 to Super Mario Galaxy 1, or would it be more like Mario 3 to Mario 1, or neither?
Interesting.
Because to me, Galaxy 2 is a pretty vast improvement to Galaxy 1,
Yeah.
but the core is still very much like...
Hard to say. Probably somewhere in between, but I'd probably lean towards the difference of Mario 3 to Mario 1, where
great.
Okay, this is quite different. You know, I want to change it up a little bit, yeah, but still stay true to what it is. And if you like the first one, hopefully you like this one, rather than it doesn't matter if you play the first one. This is so different, you know. It will turn off to everyone who played the first one. So I don't want it to be so different that it's crazy, but definitely add a lot.
Sure.
So, you know, not like, you know, like originally we were thinking of, you know, how Lost Levels, which is the true, you know, sequel to the first Mario, where that's literally just more stuff. I mean, it's not, it's the same game, they just extended it, really. That was our original thought, to do that, but, you know, we've decided against that. We definitely want to add more and make it feel like a significant kind of new experience, rather than just more of the same, which we've kind of been doing that, I guess. You know, we added the granny levels, now we've added the ghost levels. We're kind of doing Lost Levels in a way, right, extending it, you know, indirectly. So we've kind of done that. So now we're actually going to do a true sequel instead, which will change it up. So, for example, like the world map may be more like Super Mario World, for example, rather than the level select hub that you have on the first game. You know, we might change up things like that, which don't really change the core of the game, but just gives it a much different experience when you're navigating through the universe, you know, which is kind of interesting.
Sure.
I guess like Galaxy 2 did that, I suppose. So.
Yeah, they did change the world map a bit. I love in a sequel when they're willing to also not bring back stuff that I've already had in the first game, because it gives me a sense that I'm getting more of the new content more often, and also gives me a reason to go back and reminisce with the first game afterwards.
Right.
I would imagine in your case, if I were you, I wouldn't want to completely replace Muds 1, because you put a lot into Muds 1. You don't want people to think, oh, I don't need the first one. I'll just go straight to the second one. You would want people to have motivation to check out both games.
Yeah.
Sometimes I forget to.
I don't know if that enters my mind. I mean, it's more like if I was a player, and I guess I do see it as a sequel. Though, if I was a player and I played the first one, what would I want from the second one? That's where my mind is. It's kind of like I played the first. Why will I think this one's going to be interesting? That's kind of where I'm coming from. I kind of see it from a player's perspective, where what's going to be interesting, and that's why just extending it like Lost Levels did doesn't seem like the right choice now. Where even though that was our first thought, so we'll see.
For instance, like in Resident Evil 2, which is one of the first sequels that really blew my mind as a younger person, they didn't put the hunters back in. And after I played Resident Evil 2, it was like, that was awesome. I want more Resident Evil. As soon as I finished Resident Evil 2, I wanted to play it again. So how can I get more Resident Evil? Oh, I'll go back and play the first one and get to those enemies that I didn't just experience again. The zombies kind of but it can kind of cause the original game to feel like a sequel to the player. It feels new again after kind of going somewhere else for a while. Kind of like how when you go on vacation, when you come home, you appreciate home more. You're like, I forgot what this place is like. This isn't that bad.
This is pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm always pleasantly surprised that when we come, when I get home from a vacation or whatever, would have been away for a while. It's always interesting to see what the house smells like, And fortunately, it usually smells of wood, which is good. Rather than, what? We usually live in that stench? I didn't realize that. No, it's nice where it's usually it actually kind of smells like that new wood smell, which is interesting. I don't know where that's coming from. I'm not going to question it. I like it.
It's fantastic. I can't wait to smell your house someday. Someday. I bet it'll happen.
Please come down to Austin. Yeah, you're welcome to come over.
That'd be fun. There's a lot of reasons to come down. There's a big scene in Austin, from my understanding.
It's kind of quite a mixed scene as far as the different platforms and genres, and it's kind of all over the place, which is really cool. It's interesting.
Is I'm sorry. Is that where the... Oh, I'm blanking on their name. Brandon Boyer's outfit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Venus Patrol?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, Brandon.
It's an interesting. One of the things that I've always thought was interesting about you as a developer is you're an independent developer, but the games you make don't seem as though they're trying to, they're not boldly unmarketable as you see with a lot of indie developers. They're for instance, Brandon. Yeah. They you wouldn't know. Especially Cult County, but all of your games, I would say you wouldn't know that those came from a small developer. They look as polished, and in terms of the content you get in them, they're expressive, but they're not going out of their way to, for instance, Brandon Boyer's working on a game with the creator of Katamari Damacy called Tenya Wanya Teams. It's got 16-button controller.
Wow.
And no stick. How are you ever going to sell that thing, those guys? But they're just...
I don't care.
Just doing but it's great. Glad they're doing it.
It's very different motivation. And you're probably talking about Adam Saltzman as well, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think he's with those guys too. Brandon and the Katamari guy. I've chatted with Adam and Brandon a little bit. And their motivation, I think, their kind of perspective is very much more arty-farty when compared to me, where I'm not really an artiste, if you will, where I think they are. Do you feel a separation between you and what they're doing, or do you feel like you're all just game developers and you might have different styles? I don't feel a separation in a negative way, but I definitely think we're very different. Definitely different approaches to game creation for sure. Whereas I don't have that need for a game to making a social or social impact or whatever, some kind of like meaningful stake in history or anything. It's like, no, I'm just trying to entertain people, just trying to make people have fun. And I think for me, I think the difference between like indie kind of games and games maybe that we make is we spent 15 odd years making games, with Iguana and Acclaim and blah blah blah, and these games that had to be sellable. We didn't get the luxury of make what you want, good luck. It was like we're making this now, so we're gonna make it good, and we're like, oh well, that kind of sucks, but I guess so, because that's what I get paid to do. So we're kind of coming from that where, we want our games. I guess we kind of almost trained to want to make games that sell, because that's what we've done most of our life. And there's good reason to make games that sell as well.
Sure.
Beyond
because
that,
they get played by people, and that's part of the goal, is to make something that people play.
But now we get to make what we want to make, what we think will sell to the people we want to sell it to. Whereas I think Acclaim and a lot of big or even medium publishers get stuck on making a game that's appealing to everyone, but ends up being appealing to no one, and it's a complete failure. And no surprise, Whereas we're like, no, we're going to make this game for this audience, and if we hit it, we'll hit it real good, and if we don't, oh well, we'll give it another try. But it usually works out pretty good because it's a very authentic, laser-focused kind of thing. So if you completely miss, something really bad happened, I think. It's when you're trying to make games that are just all-encompassing where it's just a fruitless challenge, I think, to try and do those things. And kind of greedy at the end of the day, really. It's not very kind of, it's a weird goal to have. Which gets me into another thought, which I thought would be interesting to get your opinion on. It seems like, just companies or businesses, not even video games, just everything in the world, it's always about more. We made X amount of dollars last year, therefore, naturally, we are deserved to make more money this year, right? And next year, even more. And it just grows and grows and grows. It's interesting how our society always seems to feel like, or from a business perspective, that it's always like there has to be growth. There always has to be growth. And if you're not growing, then you suck, and you're not doing what you should do. What do you think about that? Because to me, that just seems very strange. Like, how can you assume you're always going to get more as you go, when your audience isn't necessarily growing?
Absolutely. It is, from what I've experienced this far in life, that is the mentality of someone who doesn't get to make anything. So what is their purpose? Like, you get to design and create and have an idea. Like, I'm going to have a cute boy with glasses and his grandmother go on an adventure. That to me makes a statement and is an idea, and you got to say, I did that. Right. If all you do is focus on the money part of things, you don't get to create anything other than get the illusion that you just created more money, and that hunger to think, wow, I brought us this much money, I need to bring us even more money. It never gets satiated, because that feeling of completion you get from creating an actual project and saying, I did it, it's out there, and it's going to be out there forever. I did something with my life. They never get that. The dollars just keep coming in, and it's never going to feel like they're done until they have all the money. Just everyone's money is in there, and everyone's just like, please. It's an empty pursuit, and I feel badly for the people who get stuck in that game, because it is like, there's a reason why certain video games like Candy Crush are considered bad for people, because it never ends, and you never feel satisfied, and the chase for money is often the same thing.
It's a very successful game.
Yeah, exactly. It's made them a lot of money.
Our society is just almost, whether it's natural behavior, human behavior, or it's our society's conditioned everyone to think this way, I don't know. But it seems like everyone just expects that, and I think, and this brings us very elegantly back to like the difference, the Nintendo difference. They make a console, they put it out, they make games, they put them out, and everyone else, everyone but them, is comparing them to everyone else. And they're like, I don't really care. I'm just over here doing my thing. We're making money, we're good. We have a ton of cash in the bank, right? Yeah, cool, great. We keep on moving. So they're in such a sweet spot, it's ridiculous. They have more money than some countries, literally, in the bank, just hanging out, not touching it. And they're making money. They're making a profit with their hardware, with their software. But people consider them a failure. It just blows my mind. It's just like, but But they just have their own little kind of way. You know, they're very unique, especially in our space, anyway.
Absolutely. The fact that they have that much money but aren't chasing endless money. You know, if Super Mario Brothers Wii was made to make as much money as possible, it never would have become one of the best-selling games ever because they weren't chasing a market. They were leading a market and giving people something. There was a hole in the market at that time for that, and it blew up. And good on them. More people could learn from them. Hopefully they won't just be kind of seen as failures, like you said, because that's where the press is headed a lot of the way these days.
They always will, because they're so unique, and they're not very good at communicating their emotion as a company. You know, they're not very good at that. You know, because they're very conservative in what they say, which is a shame, because then people like us speak for them. You know, I'm a big Nintendo fan, so are you. You know, and we try and assume why they're doing these seemingly crazy things, and kind of justify it for other people. But for me, I don't know. I really have huge respect for how they do things. They don't care. They make the Wii U. They think the gamepad's a great idea. They make a game. They put it out there. You know, there's the Wii Fit board, etc. All these wacky ideas. They put it out there just because they want to try and experiment, because that's entertaining for them. Just to see, do people like this? Let's give it a shot. And that is just so bold and so amazing. And yeah, 2 times out of 3 they hit a home run, and every now and again I'm like, yeah, maybe not. Oh well, you know, and they just move on.
It was interesting, and the people that love the GameCube absolutely love it. Yeah. Like even their supposed failures always find this kind of core audience that really got something out of it. So.
Games. You know, it's so interesting looking back. Yeah, you think of GameCube, I think of Wind Waker. I'm trying to think of some other. Sunshine. I was a big fan of Sunshine. I like Mario Sunshine. I have really fond memories of playing both of those games. I can't think of a memory that I've had like that for like the Xbox or PS1 or PS whatever at the time.
I have some PS1s, not PS2 memories that are that good, I don't think. But I guess we should wrap up. Sinistar is texting me saying we're over time a little bit. And I wanted to ask you, that brought it right back to a couple of questions I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you about Steam and your place or not finding a place there, what that's been like. I was so curious about that. I wanted to know if you were concerned that Nintendo would not let you publish Cult County on the 3DS because they wouldn't publish Blinding of Isaac on the 3DS. There's no risk, right? The Cult County will get blocked?
Sure, there's a risk.
Oh no! Oh, I don't want any risks in my life. Safe all the time. Keep me safe, Jools Watsham.
Huh?
Nothing. You were going to say, and then we should close up.
There's a risk, but I don't think it's quite as blatant as Binding. Binding is way more religious than ours. Ours is fictional. You know, we're never calling out a certain religion. So I think we're walking a different path. I think we'll find out. But yeah, I guess there's a chance. But I'd be surprised. But you never know. And Steam, whatever. I've given up on it, honestly.
Well, we'll talk. It'll be interesting to see how that develops in the future. Because my perception of the thing with Steam is still so confounding. So many games similar to the games that you put out in terms of both content, in terms of look, in terms of craftsmanship. They get the green light, and for some reason, Mutant Muds just so far hasn't happened.
Yeah. I just feel really fortunate that it's on 3DS, it's on Wii U. I mean, that's awesome. You know, you're on the current Nintendo consoles. That's huge. So that means a lot to me, as you know, just personally. So, you know, I wish it was on Steam. I really do. Steam's an amazing service. I'd love to have Muds on there, but I have no control. And there was a time where I was emotional about it and just really upset about it. But now I'm like, you know what? It is what it is. I can't do anything about it. I just have to keep on moving and just be bitter about it.
Well, I hope some answers come to light at some point on that, and I hope it does get on Steam so the people on Steam can enjoy it.
It's had 20,000 yeses, so 20,000 people want it at least. Seems pretty good to me. Whatever.
Yeah.
What do I know?
Yeah, Shovel Knight, which I love. Shovel Knight.
Yes, that looks amazing. I played that at PAX. That's great.
Very fun game. Got on there right away. Not that different from Muds in terms of look, feel, and everything.
Yeah, it just, you know, it's just personal taste, you know? Because when it comes down to Steam Greenlight, I wish it was literally every month they just pick the top 5 and they release them. Simple as that. But it seems like it's really just a way for the Valve staff to reduce the numbers of games that they consider for greenlight, which is fine, but it doesn't really change anything. It just makes their job easier, which is great because you can get more out. But at the end of the day, your vote doesn't count as much as it probably should. I think you should literally just take the top 5, release them, and move on. So then it's literally, and there you go. It's black and white. But it's still left to their personal, choice, and that's cool. That's every right to do that. But it's a little weird.
Yeah, to have a vote that sort of counts. Like, imagine if we elected I guess we do elect a president like that.
I guess it is like that,
do delegates, and then it's like, but that guy won the popular vote, but we're going to put the other guy in because delegates. It's fine.
Yeah.
On that bitter note.
Thanks.
Yeah, likewise, Jools. Where people can follow you. Oh yeah, the sun came out. Jools Watsham is, but it sounds different than spelled.
Yeah.
That's where they can follow you on Twitter. Is that right?
Yeah, Jools Watsham. Yep.
And you do frequent updates on the Renegade Kid site. You do video blogs, you do articles, you do features. You're definitely a great writer. I've been very.
We've got renegadekid.com has a bunch of stuff. I periodically update the actual news page on that with reviews and stuff that we've got. And then joolswatsham.com, I'll put blog random stuff up there if you want to see that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool,
Thanks,
man.
Jools.
Awesome chat.
And me. Oh yeah, likewise. I'll announce who I am, as if they don't know. Tronauts Twitter. You can follow me, and you can listen to the show reruns of it on iTunes. You can watch it later on YouTube on Destructoid TV's channels, Dtoid TV, and you can watch Teenage Pokemon if you want. If it gets enough views, we'll probably make more, or not. I might make a show about drunk Nintendo characters instead. That's something we've been floating around. Not in a bad way, like a good way.
Good drunk.
Yeah, trust me on that. Okay. Thanks so much for the great show, Jools.
Thanks, man.
Take care.
All right, man. Take care, dude.
Bye-bye.
Bye.